Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles, Legend of Zelda Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I am the Game Master ArticulateT, and as always I have Nether playing Renji Vox.
Hello.
I have Alvarance playing Hikan Sio.
Hello.
I have RoboPirate playing Zaiden Shari.
Hello.
And I have Max being played by Keistrith.
Hi.
So, friends, what happened last time?
Last time we all got frustrated at the Wall Masters and beat the shit out of them and ran around like a fly in a glass jar, finding all of the invisible walls before finally getting the iridescent sand. Once we were able to get the iridescent sand, we went over towards the forge where we were able to, with great aplomb by Renji, get the iridescent disc. After getting the iridescent disc, we had a stop for lunch, had our short rest before hopping out and fighting the great and terrible Star-Lord. When we were, him was very big. When we finally defeated him, which he was a tough battle for all involved, the doors behind it opened and Somaria showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, after transforming from his old guise. I don't know if it's a disguise or not.
It's old guys.
Yeah. After transforming from that, he said that there wasn't much time, and that's pretty much where we left off.
Indeed. And so it is that we return to our party, standing within the windswept desert area that they have tumbled out of after wandering through a pearlescent door. Nearby, a rocky formation has overtaken what appears to have once been a temple of some kind, and standing within the threshold of a pair of large stone doors is the formerly inconspicuous old man, now a slightly younger, more well-dressed old man. His gnarled cane turned into a far more illustrious staff that ends in something of a shepherd's crook adorned with little tags and other magical fetishes and everything. The wizard, who had introduced himself as Somaria, looks to all of you expectantly, standing shuffling a little bit out to one side to allow more space through the door as he gestures behind him and says, "We must talk in plainer terms than a dream can manifest. Please."
Well, this was a long time coming.
I will head in.
Max, still in dragon form, flies down from the pillar that he had landed on.
Yeah.
Just like gonna bring up the rear basically until he turns back.
As you all shuffle inside, Samara will follow along, trying to keep equal pace with Max. He taps his staff against the ground once, and the stone doors slowly close behind him. As you head down the hallway, the sounds and sights begin to almost imperceptibly, but still quite rapidly change from this ancient dusty temple within the middle of a desert to far more well-kept, refined locales. The walls and floor beneath you, the floor beneath you, the walls beside you, and the ceiling above you all have this kind of almost metallic sheen. You think it might be marble, but no, there's something else to it. It's not necessarily futuristic, but it seems it seems very modern and new by most standards. After a moment, the corridor ahead of you begins to light up subtly and opens up into a large room. A domed ceiling in a circular room, a single window staring out to a rather plain view, a small little bit of coast just before it gets to the sea. Along the walls are impossibly tall bookshelves and a few little instruments here or there. In front of the window, just a bit of ways ahead, is a wooden desk, a very nicely carved wooden desk with a nice chair. As you head inside, Somaria moves around the desk, puts the staff to one side, and then sits in the chair and heaves a sigh of relief, almost as if he's been trying to hold something together. There's this light kind of pulse in the atmosphere as something seems to relax slightly, and he exhales. Right. You have my thanks for attending. I did not anticipate the attack in the same swing, but then again, considering our enemy, it is unsurprising in most circumstances.
How long have you known of him?
Not long enough. By the time I was aware of something far greater behind this nascent death cult that had been manifesting in and around the kingdom, I had already been targeted and trapped. And he kind of like looks you over, Renji, and like peers slightly and says, not counting the dreams otherwise, I'm sure we may have met in passing at one point. Perhaps.
Like a history check?
Sure. It'll be a fairly easy one.
23.
He has similar facial features and a similar tenor in his voice, now that you can hear it clearly outside of the realms of speech, that this seems to possibly be Lord Draenor, the Lord of Magic, who had been missing for months prior to the start of the adventure.
Oh. Oh, I see. Yes.
There he is. We found him.
What form of address do you prefer?
Any is fine. Whatever you wish to call me. It just does not matter.
Well then, Somaria or Lord Draenor. I think it is good that we found you here to solve your disappearance as well.
It is a bit of a conundrum, it is true. I can only... to clear as many things up as possible, answer as many questions, and get you fully prepared, if that is what you wish. After all, as much as I would very much like it if you were to continue doing the good thing as you already have been doing in spades, I do not wish for you to feel beholden to that factor.
Well,
If there is any...
a couple loose threads. One of which, currently for us as a team, I think is most pressing, is the fact that we have been we have taken a heavy loss. We would like to rectify this?
Kind of nods slightly as he thinks it over. It takes him a bit longer than you might expect before he suddenly realizes, I see. I had wondered, though admittedly through my own observations, they were only a part of your group briefly, but I could be very wrong about that, as I sense I am.
You mean Mara?
He nods.
He has been traveling with us for almost as long as we have been traveling together.
I was confused when you mentioned her in our last conversation. I
take it that she had kept herself from your scrying and your dreams.
I was only aware of the four of you. If I knew that she was there...
Where's Tyrina?
Tyrina's with you. She's in the room.
There were 5, right?
Yeah, so she... Somaria doesn't... because he basically explains that he...
It's not a PC. Tyrina is not a PC.
Nah. But it's...
She was in the group for ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He basically explains that, as far as he could tell, the four of you had basically been traveling by yourselves, and then sometime during the attack on Sarkoza, from what he was observing, or what he could see through his own magics, was that suddenly there was just a blonde Hylian woman who apparated out of nowhere when a ghoul snatched her necklace.
It broke.
Yeah.
I tried to fix it.
Yes. Yeah.
Her true nature is... Her true nature is Mara. What she originally was is now back in the hands of Nosgrada.
If I were a gambling man, I would say that possibly this Mara of yours quite possibly serves as his phylactery, though I imagine you may have made that connection already.
Do you know of a way to sever the connection between her spirit and her base form?
He thinks on it a moment. Those of you with sufficient passive insight, which is probably all of you, maybe, can see that his face is twisting in a way where the first order of business he's trying to think of is, how do I deliver some bad news? But then he changes slightly as he looks to his side, and then he pushes himself back onto his feet and wanders over to one of the bookshelves. And he searches through it briefly, in a fairly more mundane fashion than you'd expect, considering previous wizards that you've encountered, and he removes from it a scroll and a gemstone. And he turns to you and says, I am unaware as to whether or not constructs are capable of acquiring souls, but, he says quickly with a hand up, I have not lived for so short a time as to keep my mind closed to all possibilities. This is a scroll and components for a spell that is called Cage the Soul. If you are capable of doing so, then you may well find a way to snatch Mara's soul from the weapon. At the very least then, you will save your friend. He holds it out.
If no one else will reach for it, I'll take it. Even though I
I was
can't.
actually
Max is looking at it
considering
with
that
great
Sidonor
concern.
Max.
Doesn't like the name of that spell.
Don't like that name of the spell either.
As you take it, he kind of like puts another hand around yours and says, "This is one shot." And he'll release it into your grip. And he'll toss it back to the desk and sit back down. Say, I have spent a lot of time in this tower of mine. I have had no choice but to, in truth. As I mentioned before, I was not aware of Nazgradar or his burgeoning death cult until, even within my terms, it was far too late. If I could place an assumption, I would say that the Twilight Cartel's funding of that cult, to an extent, had allowed them the resources to do what they needed to do. Clearly they have done some decent research, and had taken players off of the board that could stop them. In most instances, I would be more than willing to shirk my simple identity and stride forth and deal with the problem, but as it stands, they got ahead of me first and trapped me here. I cannot leave. Even simple messages are near impossible to go to anyone. It's the reason why I had to communicate with you through your dreams, where my messages would be twisted by your subconsciouses and other forces between here and the prime material. It is difficult, to say the least. But I am humbled to know that the world that I have been flung from still has some good souls in it. That's why I tried to contact you specifically, instead of people like Zelish or the King or anything. I could recognize something in all of you. Something good and noble. Something with a drive that, despite your pains, you would rather see the world be a better place. I cannot apologize enough for the frustrations that might have been caused through my attempts at communication.
You're right, there were many. But you say you are still trapped. What is it that is holding this place outside of our Hyrule? Is that what it is?
Yes and no. From what I can understand, this is something of a bastardization of a banishment and demiplane spell. I do not know if it is through their incompetence with magic or if they were far too skilled than anyone could give them credit for. But the place they banished me to has been shattered between physical and chronological realms. It cannot get a simple anchor on time and space. It is the reason why the different floors and locations within the tower, as simple as they are so disparate and weird. It is taking all that I have in order to give it some level of coherence, and even more so to keep the entrance on the same time plane as to where you left it.
What happens if you drop that concentration?
It, myself, and everything else that is contained within these walls are split and shattered across all possible times and all possible locations. I will probably be alive still, but I do not know whether or not I will have a stable enough conscience in order to try and figure out a way out.
What if you leave with us?
Eve shakes his head and says, I tried that a number of times to just walk out the door. It will not let me. But fear not. I have lived a good few centuries now. I've done all I can. It's a matter of a casual pursuit at this point, I suppose. After we have dealt with Nazgradar and all of his dark forces and everything, then there will be more time to allocate to my own escape. But I should not be your priority. I will find a way out. Eventually.
Max is just biting back. Don't worry, you're not.
Hikan almost did it too.
Is there anything we should tell the Council of Lords?
Only that they should probably be finding a new lord for that whatever purpose needs to be, unless they've already found one.
I
I think
believe
they were
That's why we're
considering
here now.
Uriel.
Yeah.
Good.
An interim.
Good.
For the interim at the very least.
Mm. Very good. Very good.
But Max has a point. We should get to why we're here now.
Yeah.
I don't think the Lords matter right now.
Yes. So, tell me, and I will try and answer as true and honest as I can, in as plain terms as I can, now that we are in the physical same room. As you mentioned, there are a number of loose ends. If you have any questions, any at all, ask, and I shall answer.
Is there a way other than breaking the sword to destroy Nazgradar?
Nazgradar is both fiend and lich alike. However, in most instances he has put all of his stock into a phylactery. Destroying the sword would be a way to prevent him from having any form of insurance plan, but you would still need to kill him in turn. The phylactery serves as a way for him to return to the physical world after a time. It is preventing him from dying, rather ironically. But in turn, that would be it, I am afraid. At least within aspects that you are capable of.
Do you have a means or a way to acquire something that can destroy this sword? And I will say I am very appreciative of you giving us a means to save our friend, beforehand.
Nods slightly and says, his sword is made from abyssite, correct?
That is what we've gathered, yes.
You need some level of Imperium in order to at least try and destroy it. Whether or not any additional magical wards exist around it is a different matter, but he gets up again, goes to a different bookcase and begins searching through it, and says, from what I can recall, Imperium is a divinely crafted metal from the upper planes. It is rare on this plane of existence to acquire it in any capacity because the Celestials themselves have a significant hold over it. For good reason as well. Spells that are focused through abyssite or Imperium are empowered in such a way to be uncontrollable in most. It takes a certain level of skill and capability and understanding in order to use it appropriately. But sometimes the risk is far too great. Eventually he finds something and turns and presents it. What he presents is slightly more underwhelming than you might expect. Resting on a golden inlaid hilt appears to be a very diminutive blade of what looks to be a letter opener. The blade itself, a shining iridescent metal, almost looking like this sort of it's kind of like glass but not. It's difficult to describe. It looks to be like something as if it does not belong. Like it's... Imagine, if you will, like you're playing a video game and everything in the game is rendered in a 64-bit style, and then suddenly there's this one asset which looks like it's made with like RTX on with it. That's the difference that you're looking at. And he kind of holds out and says, this is as much Imperium as I have been able to acquire in my many years. And he presents that and says, just be careful that you are not caught with it by any uppity angels every so often.
We know of one.
He's not really uppity, though.
Artismo, yes. He's fine, but much in the same way that people on the prime material can be quite varied, so too can beings of the upper and lower planes, even if their entire beings are made up of abstracta, as it were. It's difficult to explain, but Artismal we can trust, from what I can see. Just if you bump into a new angel or any other type of being from that area, be careful to mention that you have something like this. Even as small a scrap as this can be dangerous in the wrong hands.
All right. And so it is a blade, correct?
It is a blade. As I said, it is basically a letter opener in both size and general sharpness, at least from the observance. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of want to ask what stats it would have.
1d2.
I think it would be treated more or less just like a normal dagger.
However, it also incurs the condition paper cut.
Yeah.
It's not made of paper.
Sorry. It can it can put that condition on paper, as in the paper.
The paper has been
Yes.
cut. Yeah. Okay. He'll nod a bit and say, now, speaking of Artismo, I believe in from my observances, scraps of it that I could muster through broken spells. There was mention among your group at one point of the Triforce, no?
Yes.
He kind of solemnly nods and moves over back to the desk and says, I wish to save you a bit of time and say that it is not exactly a worthwhile pursuit.
Does it have to do something with the fact that we are not worthy?
It is a combination of factors. Allow me to explain. It took me a while to understand it fully, but the Triforce is a very powerful artifact, but it also comes with its own rules and comes with its own caveats. Whenever someone places their hand upon the Triforce, and by its own definition their soul is not balanced in a certain fashion, it will split. That person will then get one portion of the Triforce that best corresponds with their soul at the time of acquisition, and the other two pieces will go to those who are destined. It then requires quite the journey to find those other two pieces, to bring them back together as a form of test. A journey that I have doubts you have the time for. Not to mention, at least from observations, it has a number of locks and keys that have kept it out of the people's hands since the start of the Civil War. Kind of sighs a bit. There is a period of time in which the war's genesis had ultimately been lost. I believe I understand the reason why. The Triforce's knowledge is a corrupting thing. I am unsure as to why the people in this room are capable of resisting it. Perhaps your pursuits and your adventure has granted you enough of a strong will, but the difference is to the average person. To know that there is an artifact that can grant any wish, boundless in its scope. To know that it is real. That is a dangerous aspect.
When he says the word wish, Max is just gonna look away, like,
Yeah.
thinking.
I can do that.
No, he doesn't know he can do it yet.
Yeah.
I know.
Thinking.
From scraps and pieces of information that could be found, the war was not so much nations drawing lines in the sand. It was very much every man and woman and child for themselves. Not since prior to the creation of the kingdom had a wish been made on the Triforce, and in this instance, another one had been. The royal family had decided ultimately that knowledge of the Triforce is a difficult thing to swallow. So therefore, they simply wished that the people would forget that the Triforce was real, replace it with a logical fallacy that it is a myth or allegorical tale or something. It did not set in immediately, of course, a solution. The war's been going on for so long, but at the very least, it made the people seem more pliable to reason, and has allowed the war to die down to the state that it currently is in. But there is also the caveat of unlocking a door such as that. From a perspective as to the entity that you are currently destined to face, or I wouldn't say destined, hoping to face, I feel that the risk of someone like Nazgradar having much easier access to the Triforce, should he even have the desire to utilize it, is a untenable possibility.
It is too great a risk.
He nods.
Mm.
Yeah,
So basically, it
power
is.
is not something I need more of.
Hmm. I guess we should abandon that plan if all it would do is increase the risk of Nazgradar winning and gaining even more power.
Somaria nods a bit and says, "It is ideally only a possibility in the instance that there is no other option left."
Hmm. Another avenue that seems to be cut off, or at least heavily barred, is the Master Sword.
Yes, yes. It does not help that the Master Sword is also part of that key to the Triforce.
Hmm.
So we won't be able to get it anyway.
He nods again.
Well, if we get it, then it will weaken what protection the Triforce has.
How about we
is.
stop talking about things we can't get and start talking about things we can?
Yeah.
Yusmal was asking other Celestials about getting us more Ethereum. We can follow up on that.
Yeah, having more Imperium than the, well, letter opener that we have here. Do you think this would be enough, Somaria?
I would see to potentially reinforcing it with magic. It would be enough to at least create a fault in the blade that you are hoping to face. Something that could scratch out a rune or provide a piece of structural damage that might weaken the thing as a whole, but not in one mighty blow. Yes, I would say reinforcing would be a good idea.
So that would lead to Uriel or you?
I would say Uriel probably has more power and means free to do such a thing.
He's also a skilled artificer by trade.
Sorry, nods.
Reinforce this, follow up
Mhm.
with Artismal.
See if we can get more Imperium and maybe add onto it with that reinforcing.
A little more, can make a dagger out of it, that'd be fine. I could work with that.
Very good. Now, if you have any further questions of me, I'm happy to answer.
I have one.
Looks to Max. Gestures to continue.
Do you I'm not really smart enough to put things together. Do you think something with sufficient power could make a wish happen? Isn't that Triforce thing?
He thinks a moment and then slowly nods. Likely not on the scale by which the Triforce can manage, but yes, to something of an effect.
Okay.
You do have to be specific, though. The less power you have compared to something like the Triforce, the more finite the details have to be. Otherwise, the magics both of the world and of the caster would need to fill in the gaps in other places, and that could cause things to go wrong.
Just has to get her free.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to go quiet again.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we're strong enough for this?
It will be a rough battle, he says, as he reaches over and picks up his staff and pushes himself to his... he pushes himself forward and says, "You have a little more ways to go before I would say that you are comfortably in a position where you can do this.
You need perhaps 2 or 3 more levels.
What are levels?
I can provide you with a few things. Not artifacts, necessarily, but I can provide you with a few bits and pieces that might help you set you on your way to your final stages." And he'll kind of shakily wave his free hand, and then the room begins to expand outwards. Whatever timepiece can be seen begins to slow to a crawl and then a stop. And he kind of hobbles into a more center space and says, "Firstly, there is an artifact that the royal family might be capable of providing you. If I am right in my assumptions about someone like Nazgradar tying their power to something like the Plane of Lament, that means that he would be more comfortable on his own home turf. It is entirely likely he would try and shift your eventual battle to such a place where he has more free reign. The artifact the royal family would be able to provide would allow you to counteract that when and if possible. Secondly, I would see to it that, given the nature of his tide of inevitability, you may be best off trying to find a way to free up as many available soldiers as you can. Any possibility that you could have additional allies on board that isn't just the 5 of you, or 6 of you, I suppose, if you count that nice young chap in Artemark, then you will be more than capable of...
I sneezes.
More than capable of at least stemming the flow, so to speak. And lastly, I may be tired, I may be old, but I know my way around a few things. As disparate as this location's place and time is, it allows me at least some level of control. We have 3 days in here, at which 10 minutes will pass outside.
Hyperbolic time chamber!
Allow us to practice slightly. And he will kind of like wave the staff slightly and tap the ground, and the environment will kind of shift into different patterns and movements and different bits and pieces that allow you to that he'll basically utilize as a training area as per the hyperbolic time chamber. Over the course of the next 3 days, you will level up. In addition to that, you will also have the capability of respecking your character however you see fit.
Okay.
So
I've already had my free respec.
you already got your build locked in.
I believe so.
What if he did it again?
Yeah.
Ah!
If there's like a feat you need to switch out, if there's a spell you need to switch out, if there's any other kind of level distribution that you would like to do, then it is entirely up to you. It's, yeah. Somaria will tend to all of you as a group and then all of you individually at times in order to try and kind of essentially provide you different ideas as to how you can utilize your skill sets and allow you to practice and lab and everything like that that you need to do in order to get the kind of things that you want. So what we're going to do, at least for the interim, is I don't think there'll be much in terms of like things that will require it super soon now, but I will say that what you can do is we'll go down to each individual person and we will if you have like ideas and suggestions as to how you might have your character retrain or train yourself further, like what kind of shortcomings and everything that you feel they need to work through, then we will do that. And we will start with Renji, because as you say, you've already done your respec, but you are free to have another one if you wish to. How do you envision Renji's training with Somaria and the others goes?
So I was thinking about this and like where it might focus on maybe the physical or the spiritual or the magical aspects of Renji's training. I am just going to roll something. Bard it is. Okay. I think that Renji is trying to figure out what best to enhance in his training. And believing that to be his burgeoning magical capabilities in his way. He isn't going to be the super high magical caster that Zidane or Max are. But he is going to improve his magical capabilities just a little bit. And I'm going to take a level in Bard.
Nice.
Bard at level 8 gives me a ability score improvement. And I will use that to become more resilient.
Okay.
I will take 1 point of intelligence, and I will gain proficiency in saving throws using intelligence.
Interesting. Yeah. I imagine like in times when Somaria is dedicating all of his focus on you, as you kind of maneuver towards more magical efforts and stealing your mind, he will basically spend some of his magical effort generating like illusions or slight pushes against your mental faculty to try and make you resist it better, to try and like steal yourself and allow you to either logically analyze an illusion and break it down, or to basically just like outsmart a psychic attack, that sort of thing. Yeah, he will help you in that regard. But yeah, very cool Indeed. Next up, we have Hikan. How does Hikan spend his 3 days training?
Okay. So, I'm not entirely... Hikan's got a lot of different things going before him. He was a drunken master. He became a Way of Mercy monk. And then there's the aspect of he knows the extra oomph that he can put into the mercy stuff is not going to affect Nosgrada at all. And so for a lot of it, it's not necessarily that Hikan's skills can be improved. And it's more trying to figure out what to focus on. And so I think... Now, when you say respec, are you including... Gosh. I was going to say ability scores, but that seems like a lot.
Yes. If needs be, he Somaria has basically limited reality control within this space. He can't like change your physical makeup, but he can provide you the means to do that if needs be.
Okay. I think what Hikan's going to do is, at least for this last fight, I'm going to change the chef feat, because 6 temporary hit points isn't a lot. It can be the difference between life and death, but 6 temporary hit points isn't a lot.
I mean, the only HP that counts is the last.
Yep. I'm going to switch that for Sheikah accuracy.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm also going to switch my dexterity and wisdom scores. And I'm going to go Astral Self Monk.
Nice.
My favorite.
Be the same.
My favorite.
Full JoJo here.
Yeah.
So, I think what it is like, especially since Hikan's been using like the Eldritch Claw tattoo, which means that now when I'm using that and my fists, I have a reach of 20 feet with my But I think like Hikan kind of sits there and focuses, and it's more it's less JoJo, and it's more, because we're doing Dragon Ball references here, Ultra Instinct.
Nice.
That's so cool.
But yeah, so I will be taking that level in Monk, and I will change it to Astral Self. Was like, I'm fine with Mercy up to the end, but now I have 3 attacks, so yeah.
So, rolling HP.
Yep.
Oh no.
That's fine. Take the average. It's okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That is what we do. But yeah.
So, yeah. I'll change that to Astral Self in between sessions, obviously. And
That's fine.
I'll just roll Monk real quick. Hell
Nice. Oh yeah.
Nice.
But yeah. So during your training, Somaria will spend like time trying to like provide you with the means to help really focus on yourself and your surroundings, to really focus inward and allow yourself to become part of the environment around you, and like analyze and just generally gain a greater understanding of the world itself. He's providing you with various different little things to help you with dodging while your eyes are closed, dodging while you're bound, dodging while you are on, like, just generally just all this kind of stuff to help you kind of, as you say, achieve Ultra Instinct in your own way. and allow your key to achieve a new form. But yeah, grand, awesome. Next up, then we have Zayden. How does Zayden spend 3 days in the training chamber?
Well, I don't have any interest in re-specking anything.
That's
It's fine
fine.
as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Biden will. I'm going to 18th level, and Druid unlocks the ability to cast spells as a beast there. That probably he's focusing on is trying to cast magic whilst not having a normal mouth or hands.
Yeah. That's cool. And yeah, there's like, I imagine in most instances with Somaria that is being in beast form and trying to rationalize what's the word? Trying to rationalize various different aspects of the nature of magic. And it's admittedly somewhat difficult for him, even with his age and experience, because he's a wizard, not a druid. So it's mostly for him just kind of sitting and trying to pass druidic spellcasting stuff as in the same way, and then offering suggestions and insight as you do. And eventually you're indeed able to achieve the ability to cast spells while wild-shaped. Excellent. And then, finally, we come to Max. How does Max spend 3 days in the training chamber?
Hey, now.
Max probably spends most of the time, focusing on his internal magic.
Mhm.
And whenever Somaria comes over, just asking for books on various subjects that definitely aren't mostly about souls and wishes.
That's fine. That's okay. Samara is happy to oblige. Like, even in the instances in which he's like coming over and offering helping training and everything like that, he kind of goes at the beat that everyone sets for him. So if there's a moment where anybody is like, I just need a moment to myself to do this, or I'd like to train with this other person for a bit, then he's like, okay, and goes on to take care of
Max
other
trains
things.
entirely by himself.
Yeah. So yeah, he floats over as many books as is requested. He has quite the extensive library. But
Renji also
yeah,
taking an interest there and trying to learn.
yeah. Yep. But yeah, you find a lot in regards to the nature of souls and wishes. Souls in particular are interesting. They're quite a nebulous thing. As mentioned by Samaria's surprise earlier, every bit of writing, either by himself or someone else, of the various different books that you can find, all mention, at least in some way, shape, or form, that it is incredibly unlikely for a construct to have a soul.
Mm-hmm.
But, as
they
even
don't know any constructs who have been around for thousands of years.
yeah. But in regards
they're a bit short on those.
Yeah, in regards to various things, like he in addition appreciates, like, because when there's one bit I imagine that where you find that like a treatise or a discussion in regards to magics that are focused around souls. In most instances, they are largely necromancy spells or other spells, mostly to do with resurrection, or like the various different rules of resurrecting people and how they work. And then it gets to a bit about the spell Cage the Soul, which is the scroll and gem that he provided you. Even in his own writing, he finds the spell abhorrent, but only in the sense of like actively utilizing it to take someone who is still living from the purpose of their stuff. Like, he writes how there are like the uses of a soul that is in the gem, and how one can be freed from the gem, either to pass on to the next life or be returned to their body, that sort of thing. It's a very extensive working of the spell in itself. Samaria's writing specifically does mention that he doesn't like the idea of it. And there are a number of spells that in his own writing he detests. But there are other authors who will either praise it as something that has far more uses than is given, or there's at least one book that is incredibly quite callous when it comes to talking about the nature of a mortal soul and its uses and etc. etc. But through those readings and through the nature of the wish as well, like the general, there's not many. Yeah, the general concept and stuff, you believe you have a firm enough grasp to cast such a spell, and in so doing, perhaps save Mara without even needing to use the spell that Somaria had granted you.
Okay.
Okay.
Max does not mention this yet, because, like,
Too
everyone
many
else is busy.
Uncertainties.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I'm just going to try and do it, and if it doesn't work, then they can just do with the other plan.
We still have the scroll, yes.
Yeah. And no one needs to know that I tried.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's probably going to be pretty flashy when he does it.
Yeah.
And also we want to help our friends, and by friends I also mean Max. Max is also a friend.
Yeah.
We want to help you. Help Mara.
But
But you're busy training, and we've got time to talk later.
yeah. As you kind of go through your training, there is a period of time in which Tyrina is also.
I also rejiggered my stats a bit. I've got more con and more wisdom because I took a level in cleric.
Yay!
And I am now a Tempest cleric.
Tempest cleric. Best.
Also a question:
Yes.
do I finish reading the Constitution book?
Yes.
Okay, I now have +6 to con. My strength is now 9, but my Constitution is 22, and that's more worth it.
Yeah.
That is more worth it.
Indeed.
My goodness. I wonder how many hit points you get.
Hang on, I need what's 18 times 2?
18 times 2 is 36.
Okay, hang on. I gotta work out my new HP.
It's okay.
So when it came to switching ability scores, is it just like switching around ones or the numbers that we already have?
I should have elaborated further. In my mind, I was thinking if you wanted to take a point from one thing and put it in another, then that sort of thing. So if you have like 18 in the stat and you want to reduce it and put like a 1 in the other 9, you can take it from 18 to 17 and put that 9 to 10, as it were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because of this stuff then,
Max's strength go down because he's sitting down and reading.
I'm going to take the extra point that I have in charisma and put it in intelligence.
Okay.
So I went from -2 to -1.
Yay!
I got smarter.
You got smarter! Nice.
Nice.
I have a hit point total of 198.
Yeah.
Almost some barbarian numbers there. Almost.
Almost. But that's still good. Yeah. That's still really good.
Very good.
I don't think I can do much with the changing of the ability scores, because currently it's 11, 14, 14, 16, 16, 20.
Yeah. Good, yeah. But yeah. So as you're doing your various different bits of training, Tyrina is also training in her own way. It's more martial than anything else. But eventually, like, Somaria wanders over and they have a kind of sit down, a very frank conversation. For those who would be listening in,
Perception 20, 25.
Yeah, that's fine. Most of the conversation in turn is generally just like him talking to her about what exactly it was that she was hoping to achieve when she left the party the first time.
Oh my god, she's finally getting therapy.
More or less.
Say yes.
Like this happens briefly on day 1 of the 3 days, in which Somaria basically lays out on the table. It's really interesting in the sense that he's tried to do the same thing with all of you in your dreamscape stuff, but it's always been slightly more metaphorical. It's weird to see what he would have done if he had you in the same room and could speak to you plainly. He sits down and kind of analyzes it in the sense that there's a lot of stuff that Tyrina, from his observation, there's a lot of stuff that Tyrina seemed to be running from. And he wanted to figure out exactly what it was that she was running from. Because he attests that being in that dreamscape and experiencing your own death is a traumatic experience. But the aim of, like he even gestures in a certain way. He has to catch himself to say it, to make sure that it's not demeaning or condescending in a fashion, when he explains that ultimately she could have grown a lot more, become a lot stronger if she stayed with all of you, because from his observation, she went out adventuring to start with because she left her temple, left her monastery, to see if she could find strength on her own, and never really completed her paladin training. And then she hung out with you guys for a bit, had a traumatic experience, and then decided to leave because she was afraid that she wasn't going to be capable of stopping anything bad from happening to all of you. And this constant moving around and refusing to stay in the same place has only had a detrimental effect. Ironic, considering the people that she would be traveling with alternatively hadn't been staying in the same place either, but that's not, which is what Tyrina would say initially, but it's not what Somaria means.
I think I understand the basic treatise of this campaign. It is a slanderous take on job hopping.
It's not. Basically, on the second day, there's like a very brief argument after that on the first day, at which point Samara bows out and goes to help train with other people, and Tyrina keeps to herself and does more physical training. Day 2, he tries it again, and this time explains that more or less the best way to go about it is to the part about being a paladin mostly is understanding what it is that you are fighting for. That while he doesn't doubt her conviction, she hasn't really planted her feet anywhere yet. And because of that, that's ultimately holding her back. Being afraid to do things because it might hurt somebody, or you might prevent people from being hurt in the first place, sort of thing, that's just a hazard of the job. What you need to do is you need to really dedicate yourself to something that you want to do, or something that you want to fight for if you're going to become a paladin. At which point he drops the bomb that up until this point, Tyrina, despite being a level 15 paladin, has not taken up an oath. She does not have a subclass.
Seems mechanically unsound.
Yeah.
Probably do something about that.
Yeah. And so this conversation lasts a bit longer, and instead of it ending in an argument, Somaria leaves Tyrina with things to think about. And then on the last day, he settles down with her and then kind of begins to do something similar to what he tried to do with Renji, but Renji kind of understood the assignment like immediately when he did it, which is to try and stoke this idea of conviction in her. And so it is through like a brief spar, where all Tyrina is capable of doing is taking up her axe and charging straight at the wizard, who then casts a casual spell which knocks her back some distance. And he kind of he stands defiant in his own way, and she gets up on her feet and through gritted teeth snarls at him. "I don't understand what it is you're trying to tell me," and rushes headlong at him. She swings, he brings up a shield, the axe bounces off, and he says, "I have told this to your companions in some way, shape or form. The general purpose of adventuring is to better oneself and the world around them. At least, that is what I believe, and it seems, in some ways, your companions may also share something of a similar idea. You have a great gift, Tyrina Gaul. You have great power, but it has no direction. I will say, as I have said to your friends, I will say it again. Power is merely a tool of the will. And the will is slave to intention. So what are your intentions?" And Tyrina, through sheer tenacity, perhaps not immediately, does seem to finally get it. As she brings up her axe and her grip tightens on it and says, "My intentions are to protect my friends. My intentions is not to yield." And she swings the axe. Despite being a good 30 feet away from Somaria, the head of the axe flares, and a slice of light flies from the axe head and surges towards the wizard, who only barely has enough time to bring up another shield to dissipate it. And there's just this silence.
How did she learn sword beam before I did?
Huh.
Axe beam.
She picked the oath that Arnie made that gives her sword beams.
Yeah.
I suggested that too.
I know.
And she kind of like stands there mesmerized for a bit and is like, "Huh. Oh, what the... Huh?" Somaria just kind of smiles like and says, "I believe you have found your conviction. Now remember, if that is your decided purpose, if that is what gives you drive, then do not let go of it. If that is what you wish to be, then that is your oath. That is who you are. And the more you attune yourself to it, the more you understand it, the more you accept who you are, the more power it delivers, and the better you are able to protect your friends. These are the tenets by which you have your oath. Never surrender, yield no ground, and be the last line. Does that sound good to you?" And Tyrina just kind of thinks for a moment and nods slightly. Says, Yeah, I think I got that. Yeah." And he smiles and turns to the rest of you, as Tyrina contemplates over everything that has transpired. She's also going to roll hit points. 9, but that is no, that's still average, so that is plus 9 on top of that, so that is 134 total hit points. But she is now an Oath of Defiance paladin, which you can find now on D&D Beyond now. But yeah.
I should talk with Tyrina about the blade wave. That's interesting.
Yeah. And after a little bit more time passes, the room begins to recede back to its original size, slowly enough for people to kind of gather up. And Somaria, now thoroughly tired, it also probably hasn't escaped your notice that despite it being 3 days, he hasn't slept at all. Yes, if you wish to.
Barely.
Thank goodness. I will say, I started with 62 hit points. I am now at 69.
Nice. But yeah.
I'm at 147.
Nice. So Somaria will kind of like, he'll kind of be leaning on the stick for a bit before he just kind of like decides not to be silly and will like totter over to the desk and lean on it, and say, "Now then, I believe this is all the time that can be spared. I hope that you have found this trip enlightening. I thank you for the company. It has been quite the treat, all things considered. I suppose there is naught else to do now but to see it through to the end, if you are still willing."
It looks like we have a lot still to do.
Yep.
But we are better prepared for it now. Thank you for your teachings.
Thank you for your patience.
We'll send word to the castle. At least your absence as Lord of Magic will be known now.
Yes. I would have suggested finding other mages of my level, but unfortunately, I think with even now Zelish gone, Uriel is more or less the last remaining authority on magic. Byrne is long since dead. Paki's somewhere off in the multiverse somewhere. I have no idea where Rauru is, and even if Zelish were alive, I would not suggest him. He turned down a possibility of becoming the Sage of Shadow at one point, but he would not leave his king's side, and I fear his protectiveness probably would have sullied the role to begin with. But Uriel is of good skill and good mind, even if he is a staunch capitalist, but that is besides the point.
It does ruin the thing.
Thank you for your time, and I hope the rest of your journey remains fruitful and safe. And perhaps one day, if I can figure a way out of here soon enough, I might be able to meet you within the shining land of Hyrule that you will have protected by the time I get out.
I look forward to it.
Oh, and before you leave, I need to roll something.
Oh no.
Yeah, I can't see what that number is.
Oh no.
It's all of the numbers.
What dice was it? Just take the highest number.
Oh, okay. If that is the case, Max.
Oh, okay, hello.
He casually tosses his staff to you.
Awkwardly catches it. What do I do with it?
Whatever you wish. Your group can have it. It'll be in far more capable hands for now than it will be in mine. I can always make a new one if I need one, but Take it. And I will provide you all in your inventory with the
I'm
cane of
only
Somaria.
attuned to 2 magic items.
Aha. A legendary staff that requires attunement. It is a magic quarterstaff that grants a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with it.
And then it also gives plus 2 to spell stuff.
Oh, and +2 bonus to saving throws and spell attack rolls.
I guess it's
It-
spell saving throws and not like saving throws I roll.
So
it
it's
says saving throws.
I think the intention is that it would give you a +2 to the
Your
DC.
Spell save DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, I'll put that as that when I put it on the sheet.
Okay.
But has a lot of stuff.
50 charges. Gains 46 plus 4 at dawn. We spell last charge roll d20. On a 20, it regains 1d12 plus 2. Arcane Denial is a reaction you spend
Oh.
3 charges to cast shield or absorb elements at 3rd level when targeted by a spell within its area. Block of Force is an action you can spend 5 charges to a cube that is 5 foot on each side. Weighs 50 pounds. Those without the cane's Mario are not able to move it without a DC 30 strength athletics check. Those with the cane can move the without effort. Block is an AC of 16 and 50 hit points, immune to poison, fire, and psychic damage. Dismisses bonus action, and block is destroyed when an action is used to summon another one. And when it's dismissed, destroyed or resist 0 hit points, it violently explodes. Each creature within 10 feet of the block must make a DC 15 dex save, or take 66 fire damage, and half such a successful one. If you're holding the cane, you're immune to the damage. You also can use some charges to cast a bunch of spells if you're a sorcerer, wizard, or warlock. I'm one of those. Anganazar Scorcher, Fireball, Magic Circle, Stone Shape, Wall of Force, Magic Missile, Somaria's Explosive Blockade, and
Firebolt.
Fireball and Burning Hazard, Thunder Wave, and Color Spray without charges as well.
Damn.
But those last
Very
four.
good.
Retributive Strike. You use action to break the staff over your knee or against solid surface. Recover a Retributive Strike. The staff is destroyed and remains. This sounds familiar. It explodes. 50% chance to instantly travel to another random plane of existence, avoiding the explosion. If you fail to avoid the effect, you take force damage equal to 16 times the number of charges in the staff. Each other creature in this area must make a DC 17 dex save. On a fail save, you take a shit ton of damage, and if you succeed, you take half of the shit ton of damage.
Wait a minute. We can. I mean, it is very much a like you do this and there's no coming back, pretty much.
Mhm.
But if it's full of charges, if the 50 charges are there,
Yep.
you can on a failed save, or no, on a successful save, you still do 200 points of damage to those who are right there.
Yeah.
Ow.
If wish doesn't work, I'm breaking the stick.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you didn't calculate that right. It's if you were to wait. Why is it saying?
50 times 16, I think, is.
Oh, that's only for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no.
10 feet or closer is 8 times, which would be 400. And then
And
if you
halved is 200.
save, it's...
Yeah, I saw the 16 times. I thought if you would just break it over their face, they'd take 16 times.
Yeah. So you could. It's durable enough for you to be able to use it as a quarterstaff, but it's like the idea is that you are willfully like breaking it over your knee.
Yeah.
Because you're attuned to it, you can probably like, I am choosing to break you, and it'll go, okay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I copy down a bunch of information.
Yeah, there's
That's hella
a
powerful.
lot to it.
Yeah.
I was debating just being like, can I have your stick? That's
My
what
stick now!
Yeah, no, Max's stick.
Oh dear.
I
And
have
to be perfectly
two
honest,
focuses.
and to be perfectly honest,
Can I use it as a focus of the new cleric spells I've got? Or is it just an arcane focus?
It's primarily an arcane focus. So I'd say that it would be.
I have
Because I don't have
an argument
a
in
thing
favor
for my
of
cleric spells.
using this as a
Although,
cleric.
although I am flavoring my cleric spells as just more of what I'm already doing.
I'd say yeah. I'd say it should be okay.
And if that didn't work, I would also have added Artie, please.
Come on!
on.
Come on!
Come on. Oh dear.
but yeah, I'm also gonna give Renji the letter opener, because I went with all unarmed stuff now, so I'm just punching things.
Oh no, you're
It's really
definitely
good.
armed. You're multi-armed.
Yeah, but it's unarmed, multi-armed.
That is confusing.
The arms are not allowed to hold weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is banned.
Yeah.
I do better when I'm
Imperium
not holding
letter
them.
opener.
Yeah. So if we get more, then it'll be up to you.
I will put it in the bag of holding.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. And so with that, Somaria will kind of nod slightly and push himself up to head back to the other side of the desk and sit in the comfy chair. And just kind of sit tiredly. Do you head out?
I think we should.
Yeah.
I will, as we are walking down the hall and then towards the portal for the iridium disk. I think I will talk to everyone. I mostly say, now that we're done here, what is our next move? I will send word to the castle through the sending stone, but I'm assuming we go back through through Gerudo Fortress, but do we then go into the still rebelling villages? Do we...
Was it sad to free things up there?
Yes, it would, I think, and that way we will have more forces for the eventual showdown.
I believe we're also supposed to sit there and look around for the Lionel and to see if we can do anything about Cassandra.
Yes, that too. But I want everyone to be on the same side and to have everyone agree to the plan that we're going to make. I will kind of look at Max for this, and I say, we all want to see Mara returned to us. I don't know what steps we need to take to make that reality more likely to happen.
I have been working on something. I
figured you did.
I don't know if it will work. Or if I'm strong enough to do it, but... I don't want to imprison her, so... even if it's only for a short while. Sounds awful.
I understand. I trust your judgment in this, Max. I think you and Zayden are the two most powerful spellcasters, two most powerful mages that I know. If anyone can figure it out, it's you.
Having power doesn't necessarily mean you know how to do something.
That's why I also trust your ingenuity.
I'm gonna do what I can, and if it doesn't work, then I have to do the other thing.
Then we'll go with Plan B. But it's good that we have a Plan A.
It literally doubles our odds.
Yes. That is how that works.
100%.
Yeah.
Best thing for it, I think, at this point in time is if I don't know how powerful of a spellcaster this Nazgul guy is.
Very.
He did kind of, yeah. But that means that he's someone who has the capability and the motivation to interfere. I've seen a counterspell or two. I think it might be best that we, at the very least, first priority is to take him out. Put him out of commission at least long enough for us to be able to act. And then we have more wiggle room to try and get your friend out of that sword.
Out of character, does anyone have any way to anyone who's faster than Max have any way to get the shocking grasp spell?
I was not given Shocking
Hold
Grasp. I was
on.
given Lightning Lore, but I can try meditating on the
Hold
Ether
on.
Medallion.
If I knew
Because
this,
if you cast it on him, he doesn't get to do reactions.
I understand. Let me hold on because I have a useless mage hand. No, Shocking Grasp is not on the Warlock. So mage hand goes back. Bard. Does Bard have Shocking Grasp?
Nope, only Artificer, Sorcerer, and Wizard.
Well, shit.
There are a couple feats that can give it to you, though.
There's also
And
there's
some
al-
races.
there's also a wizard in town that would be happy to sell you a scroll of Shocking Grasp that it would be a pittance to you at this point.
Yeah,
We
but
just needed to have the highest DC possible.
Yeah, that's true. That is a point.
Would we commission him for a custom spell that does nothing but makes it hard to take reactions?
Damn it, I should have went open hand.
No, it's fine.
Wait, no, it's not a DC. It's just a melee spell attack.
Yeah.
I forgot. Ren.
Even better.
Nah, I was making that joke because one of the flurry of blows effects of open hand monk is you don't take reactions.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I can't at this moment get Shocking Grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is a spell scroll from Uriel,
With spells that's got the make a spell attack, do those go off your DCs and stuff? Your plus attack?
They do not.
and I don't think I can learn it from a spell scroll because Bard and Warlock.
Yeah.
Your alternative is to throw something at him that he would be compelled to counterspell if he can counterspell.
Yeah. I need
and-
someone to go before me with a big spell.
Yeah.
I will wait if I have to.
Like my big 4th level spell is specifically an int save, and I doubt that will be effective.
Sidon. Throw a big spell at him.
We'll see if I can get rid of his legendary resistances. But that is for the future.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like I say, the alternative is that you are still a sorcerer. You could spend sorcery points to bonus action shocking grasp him, and then wish at him in his face.
Yeah, that is also true. But these are things that we will have to come up with when we get there.
Yeah.
It'll all depend on when I am in the initiative.
Yes.
So my question is, before we go deal with the remaining things with Cassandra and the Lionel, do we want to stop off in Castletown and see if people need supplies? I'm looking, like, I'm facing towards Renji, as Renji's the one that started this conversation, but I'm eyeing Tyrina's chainmail armor.
Yes.
I mean,
Mark's not getting it. I don't need anything.
well, I mean, I can if needed, but I was thinking at some point, and it depends. Like, I don't know if Tyrina's seen Zayden walk through plants yet.
I think so.
Are there
Yeah,
trees
we
nearby?
walked. I think we.
Didn't we do it to go to the desert somewhere?
I mean,
Back-
we
We
were
did it to go
close to
back to-
Hikan's monastery.
We did it to. We did mention to her, like, are there any trees around we could use for it?
Oh yeah. So Tyrina would explain that if you're strapped for time, then you can all like. She didn't know whether or not there are any cacti around here that could be used, but if we can find a cactus, then great. Like make your way back to Gerudo Fortress the normal way. And if you find a cactus, use it immediately because time is of the essence. What she would suggest is that while she doesn't want to split the party any further, she could go to Gerudo Fortress and see if she can muster up any kind of additional folks to be like, hey, I know that you don't like doing things out in Hyrule Field, but there's a fucking lich.
And I don't think he's going to stop there.
Yeah. So that would be her suggestion. That, and then while you're taking care of other things that are more important, she's mustering up a background force and will say that if there's a specific spot to meet in, then perhaps like she can head there afterwards with or without additional help, in order to make sure things are ready to go. But yeah, that's her suggestion. Whether or not you have objections to that is entirely up to you.
I think that's a good idea to get us more people.
Mhm.
Which means that I think that as soon as we can, we should also send a letter to Automark, so that way we can get Kai to go to the Gorons, because we've helped the Gorons before. We helped clear the mines, see if we can cash in that favor.
We should talk with the Zora.
Okay.
I know we haven't really helped or
Yeah.
done anything for them specifically. I mean, like they helped us with Artismal.
You've been back and forth in Zora's domain enough where I would say that like you haven't met with King Zora, but you have at least done enough around Zora's domain to maybe like people who recognize you would see you in a favorable light.
Yeah, like I think we have the
We dealt with the my brother problem there.
Yeah.
yeah. Was that really Zora's domain, or was it more of like the
No, that was Zora's domain.
Yeah.
You do
Right.
have one possible connection that I think would potentially open up some doors, but I will need something of a insight check if you are dwelling on it in order to
I would be dwelling on it, but I also, it's been 125 episodes before this one. I
Yeah.
cannot recall everything.
That's okay.
20 though.
20. You think about it for a moment and recall that on your journey to the Sealed Isle, you had someone with you who was studying a former royal wizard of the Zora, or his notes. And they served as your navigator.
Yes.
Maybe
We
she
did
would
find
be
out.
capable.
We did find out what happened to him.
Yeah. So she is another point of contact that you can go to.
Wonderful. Would she still be in Zora's in Sarkosa?
Uh,
I think she was in Zora's domain last we saw her.
yeah.
Because we saw her around the same time that we went to go see Artismal before
True.
sending him to, or getting Larson to send him back to the plane of Din.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have your components for your big everyone is here moment as needed.
Just gotta get them all together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
First
So
off, find Kirby.
Yeah, he'll just solve the problem.
yep.
Oh, you know, the one that survives the big whatever the freak that was.
Yeah, that was Kirby. But yeah, you have something of a direction because you have, like, as Somaria said, you can deal with the remainder of what is left of the Civil War. You have the royal family to speak to about an artifact. You have a wizard to speak to about stuff.
Yeah, did Somaria mention what kind of artifact it was that the royal family might be able to?
He did
offer?
not.
He did not. Yeah,
Just said that they got something,
that's true.
and it's more a question of will they be willing to lend it to us.
Yeah, something that is not the Master Sword.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we would be allowed to use if we were to put our hands on it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, and I think at that point, as you head out of the tower, with a direction in mind, the sandstorm that is surrounding it is no longer there, but as you move away from it, it begins to kind of just fade out of view as if it were a mirage, and leaving you alone in the desert. And with that direction in mind, with a general plan of how to proceed, we will end the session there for tonight, with our party now freshly leveled up and stronger than they were when they left the tower. But I have been ArticulateT. Thank you very much for listening / watching. With me, as always, I have had Renji Vox being played by Nether, sorry.
It's okay. 2 more levels!
Yes. I have had Hikan Sio being played by Avrdal.
Bye-bye.
I have had Zayden Shari being played by Rubber Pirate.
Well.
And I have had Max being played by Keystrith.
I am definitely not getting these cleric levels specifically for the Tempest Cleric's Channel Divinity,
No,
I
not
swear.
at all. Not at all. Don't worry.
It's all good.
How do you insinuate this?
I
And we'll-
definitely don't want to be able to get maximum damage on 2 of my spells a day.
Look,
Why would I ever want that?
Yeah.
given your name, you always do max damage.
Yeah. And we'll see you folks next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.